back to you,
Yes,
Miles.
excellent. Hello, Paul. My name is Miles. Welcome to Pandooradom, all.
And I'm
Back
Paul
to-
Cradle. So, Miles, what is Pandooradom?
Well, Pandooradom is a work in progress, but what I can say is that it is a channel dedicated to the opening, the dissection, learning about of mysteries and about the unknown, about things that you may have wondered about, had questions concerning, but were afraid to ask. And it may, I think, in large part, may be things that a person who watches our channel, what we call Pandooranauts, would never have even thought about to begin with. And for the first time, will be exposed to on this channel. And you'll wonder, why did I not think of this before? Or how could I have never been exposed to this before? So thank your lucky stars. Not to toot our own horns, but I think the Pandooranauts will kind of thank their lucky stars in the end that they will become aware of certain things that they would not have become aware of had they not become Pandooranauts. Back to you, Paul.
Yes, Miles. I was just thinking that's a great introduction for the start of the channel. I wonder how you came up with that off the top of your head. So that is excellent material as a first starting video. Now remember, we also have to keep in mind there is the YouTube audience is well, I hate to say it, but it's the smartphone age and the click away age. So
Yes.
we're keeping that in mind as well. As much as we like to go deep and delve into things, it also has to be up to the second, catching your attention. And so we've got to do that too. But good news is that we have guests lined up also that can be a treasure trove of information for people and to bounce ideas off of also. And so
Absolutely.
that's also going to be the point of the show to centerpiece different individuals who have yet more to offer than even the hosts could. And we are
Right.
considered co-hosts. And back to you, Miles.
Yes. Thank you, Paul. Not so bad yourself in terms of the information you bring. And I even find myself asking, where do you pull certain turns of phrase out of the ether as you speak? So I am quite impressed also with your co-hostmanship. I do want to give a quick disclaimer. Right now, at the moment, I happen to be pushing my son in a stroller through the local neighborhood as I am wont to do of a pleasant evening. And so that's why I'm not looking into the camera. I may look a bit distracted or that I'm focused on something else, but I'm essentially just looking ahead of us to make sure that we don't run into any upcoming objects. Back to you, Paul.
All right, Miles. I also have a daughter who may make an appearance on the show, possibly. Um,
Yes.
but until then, I am currently kind of pacing as I tend to do when I'm able. That tends to kind of help me think better. I'm not really sure if that's not a very good visual for YouTube camera. So I'll see if I can turn my camera on for just a moment. I have it off right now to save bandwidth. There I am. I'm not pacing right now,
Oh,
so I can
yes.
have a good view. I'm not
There
sure
he
how
is.
good of a view that is because it's maybe I should adjust the backdrop. I'm not sure which is better. There's a Raggedy Ann doll back there, by the way. You can see that.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
Uh, cool.
So I will have to figure out which backdrop is better, but we should be wrapping this up. I'm sure I hear the clicks all over tick 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 tick. But bye guys, they're
Yeah.
already on, and that's the last thing we want. So we must not drag on anything. Luckily, YouTube has a cut feature,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
yeah. So I'll go ahead and wrap this up from my end. You can also to Miles, unless you have something else to bring up. And back to you, Miles.
Yes, absolutely. I do want to say quickly, though, when you turn on your camera, I wanted to say that I'm quite impressed by your ceiling. I think that's a pretty breathtaking ceiling. And I suppose
Well,
as the show goes on, we'll be able to talk more about our local surroundings and some of the background to our lives, and how it informs the show. I think one thing that it may be worth mentioning is that you and we met in the most unlikely of places, both having been born in the United States and grown up there. We essentially met and became friends on the other side of the world.
right.
And I think that's very relevant to many of the things we'll talk about, where we're coming from, as on the one hand, Americans, and on the other hand, hyphenated Americans, and on top of that, American or hyphenated American expats. And so it's a very interesting way in which perception is shaped compared to people who may be coming from other ways of life that may be more local, which is not to say there's anything wrong with that, because there are amazing and incredible things that you can glean and learn and take from more local or localized sort of, we'll say, news sources. I think of sort of a wise woman or a wise man or otherwise in some cabin who has never left within 50 or 60 meters of their own roost. I don't know, that seems a bit small, a radius, but you can imagine such a thing. Someone who's never left their own village in 80, 90 years, they can still be an incredible wealth of knowledge.
Uh-huh.
But I do think that there is a particular kind of vastness, hopefully, that you may be able to get from sources who are geographically very well traveled, insofar as they have also activated not merely the geographical sort of, we'll say, antennae, the spiritual antennae, but also the spiritual antennae. And what I mean by that is, in my travels, and I believe from what I've understood from your travels, there's been no dearth of people and forces that we have run into who, despite great geographical travel, may not have been particularly advanced in terms of spiritual travel, although, who am I to judge?
Mm-hmm.
And yet there are others
Mm-hmm.
who are both well geographically traveled, and they are absolute beasts of spiritual travel or intellectual travel or some other travel that is something other than physical. Back to you, Paul.
Mm-hmm. Oh, very good point. I was just considering that, yes, we have indeed many worldly experiences in our travels. For me, well, not quite as extensive in the world as you have, but I've traveled a bit throughout Asia and Southeast Asia. Currently, I'm in the Philippines, but we also, and so there can be a lot to be shared from experiences. But we also have to remember, no matter how exotic and foreign someone seems, they are just local somewhere.
That's true.
No matter, and I
Right.
guess that's one of the things that you begin to pick up if you do meet more people on the other side of the world, as it were, or far off exotic places. They're not exotic where they are, and
Yes, that
they
makes sense.
and you yourself are exotic somewhere. So
Right.
be
That's true.
aware of that too.
There is a
So
relativity.
it's all relative. Where we are neither uh, foreign nor local, depending on how you look at it, or we're both.
Right.
I mean, I'm in the Philippines where I am a foreigner, but I am also when I am, even though I'm here, when it comes to telecommunications, I'm just pretty much still a local to Americans, although I'm a bit out of touch, I would have to say, after so many years that the United States, although I am technically a local, I'm not quite a typical. I wouldn't say like if you wanna know word on the street, boots on the ground, what it's like in America today. I am not the one to ask, but that's where my passport is from. And those and also I am, even though I'm in the Philippines and I have a Filipino family and I've stayed here and have pretty extensively been absorbed into them, here I am mostly just another foreign guy. So you cannot really become Filipino, or, well, I guess there is immigration, but I'm not sure that it could ever, for some people, could ever really be complete. Now, and of course, there is a big difference between a first generation immigrant and second generation and third generation. They do make that distinguishment, which means that during the period of one lifetime, it is very difficult to do very much of immersive immigration. You're going to be a foreigner during your lifetime, and I certainly am, even though I'm integrated into family. So we can bring up various points about what it's like to be a foreigner. I think that's kind of one of the things that we can offer on our channel, and keeping in mind
Wonderful.
that foreign means foreign to you.
Right. Exactly. That's a very important point.
So I am about ready to get to bed, but I am looking forward to future guests and many a watch time hour and subscriber. Although I'm not sure that we should not expect any particular video to be viewed very widely for quite a while, and it's just warming up. But that's okay. YouTube requires patience. It's a prerequisite, even for the channels that are going to be smashing. It's going to require a lot of patience and learning.
No doubt.
And in the future, I may or may not, who knows, be learning that I cannot quite, maybe we cannot be really quite talking like we are now. But it's a luxury that you can take in the beginning because you don't know. You just have to learn. All right. Your meeting will end in 10 minutes. So we should be trying to wrap this up here.
Yes. Let's maximize it, though. Don't forget
Maximize.
what's it? Back to you, Miles.
uh, yeah. Back to you, Miles.
Yes. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate all of those insights, and I'm sure our audience does as well. In other words, as we've said, the Pandooranauts. You may object to that moniker. Let us know what you think. If you become a fan, whether you like that sobriquet, being called, in other words, a Pandooranaught, that is to say, N-A-U-T, as in an astronaut or a psychonaut, a Pandooranaught. So we, for the time being, will refer to you, our audience, in that way, along with other titles, and let us know what you think in the comments.
Oh yes, comment. Go ahead, Miles.
Yeah, well, that's something we'll talk about. But I do want to say that I think it's important because we do want to establish a kind of interactivity with our audience, with the Pandooranauts and others who may not wish to be, called by that term, but still have some kind of association with us. We want to make it clear that we're here to be talked to, and we're here to sort of have an interactive relationship with those who deign to watch your channel. And I know that we only have a few minutes left here, but I am one who certainly believes in maximizing the time at hand. And I wanted to just say very quickly about some of the comments that you had made about being foreign. I think that those are excellent points. And I'll add that I actually feel that it's not only two things that a person who is an expat or an immigrant or emigrant even experiences. It's not just two. That is to say that you're either local or foreign, depending on how you look at it. It's certainly those things. But I think I don't know if it's true of all persons who are transplanted from an original home to a new home, but it is certainly true of me, and I believe it's probably true for you. There's a third aspect of identity, that you are not merely just a foreigner, nor are you merely just a local. There's also a third aspect of identity that has to do with being transplanted in the way you have at all, to a new place, to a new way of thinking, to a new way of experiencing reality. That it's almost like a level up in a video game. Super Mario is still Super Mario, and yet he gains a new power, and then he's kind of Super Mario, no longer just mere Mario. So there is something of a power up that is beyond just being local, and what is beyond just being a foreigner. There's a third thing. I don't know what to call it even at the moment, but it has something to do with, maybe it's like expatness, perhaps. It's like a third region that is apart and out of space. It's out of the geography. It's outside of the geography. So it's an interesting thing, but I just wanted to add that because I think that's a very certain aspect of the experience. And then finally, I think that we really, that this informs a lot of what we will talk about on Pandooradom, but it is absolutely not in any way limited to just that. We're talking about delving and diving into many disparate subjects, but that in the end will be tied together in ways not so expected. So I just wanted to make that clear to our audience, to the Pandooranauts, that we don't want to limit ourselves in terms of theme, and we want to be, pretty, we want to kind of bring in as much as we possibly can in terms of diversity of aspect of what we'll talk about, to be relatively comprehensive, but in a way that will not be deleterious to being clear and to being concentrated and being able to give real world insights into the subjects that we're bringing into the discussion. So that's what I have to say about that for the time being. Back to you, Paul.
Well, Miles, that's a very interesting point. You see, by definition, Pandooradom is without limits. It may actually be the very generator itself of all disparate things. So there is no particular thing that can be put into a box, pun intended, when it comes to Pandora. It all just comes out of it, just keeps coming out.
I wondered who'd be the first to do that.
You can't put it back in. You can't put it back in. What was that, Miles?
I said I was wondering who was going to be the first to do the pun
Yeah.
about the
You
box.
can't. You
Yeah.
can't. You can't put Pandooradom back in, and nothing here is easily put into a box. As much as we, with our minds, like to do that as humans, objectify things and cut out boundaries. We cannot really do that in Pandooradom. It's like the bucket fill on a paint program that just spreads way too far out. We don't know how
Yes.
far it's going to go. But I'm excited about the possibilities, and I just wanted to bring up that that is a very good point about a third kind of possibility between foreign and local, and it makes me kind of imagine kind of there's a third state, but then there's also kind of a spectrum
Right.
where as soon as you start off fresh off the boat, you're everything new is foreign. That's newness, but then that immediately starts to meld in to to a localness in a way, but it's like the foreignness doesn't go away. There's like a third kind of point. It's there's a spectrum, but then it's like a two-dimensional or multi-dimensional spectrum. So you're always going to be foreign, but you're becoming local, but in a way where you can't really become local because you were foreign. So
Well, may I
it's kind
interject
of
something here?
kind of
Sorry.
confusing. Go ahead, Miles.
What's that?
Go ahead,
Sorry.
Miles.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to interject very quickly that I definitely hear everything you're saying, but I also wanted to add that it's important to keep in mind the audience, the Pandoranauts, in my point of view, that there are many so-called foreigners who have perhaps made greater contributions to their adopted country than in many cases the
Mm,
born citizens have been. And not to say that I'm making any kind of political point about what's going on in America right now or anywhere else in the world that has issues with immigration and so forth. But I am saying just, from the point of view of statistics, essentially, that if you look at countries historically, you often find that it's transplants to adopted homes, adopted national homes.
mm.
Very, very commonly, you find writers and artists and politicians who, on the one hand, they may not have been born in that country. And in other
We could be
cases,
cut off any second, just to let you know. But go ahead, go
no,
ahead. We
no
can
worries.
continue in another video. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I think
Or
I think it's better to just go ahead and be cut off for now because people don't really like outros anyway. They all click away when the outro comes. I do when
all
I'm
glory to the unceremonious cutoff. Yes,
yeah, because as soon as I hear
there's a
somebody wrapping
heroism
up
in
a
that.
video, I'm out. Like I don't want to hear your intro. I'm on. You know, I'm that way. I've heard
Yes.